My parents degraded me at my sister's graduation, calling me a mistake compared to their perfect child. So I stunned them with my response. At Alina's graduation, I experienced one of the most humiliating nights of my life, and it was at the hands of my own parents. In front of our relatives and family friends, they belittled me with casual cruelty. The day was supposed to be centered solely on Alina, my older sister. She had just graduated from college, already landed an excellent job, and was ready to begin her professional career. When our parents stood up to give a speech in her honor, I expected the usual heartfelt words about her achievements. I wasn't surprised when they praised her as one of the greatest blessings in their lives. I had long since realized that my parents treasured Alina more than they ever valued me. Alina was always the more talented child in their eyes, and I grew up hearing constant comparisons between us. Then during their speech, they cracked a joke that left me frozen in my seat. They said they should have stopped after having Alina because second-borns usually turn out to be worthless. They went on to say that if Alina had been their only child, they could have devoted more time, attention, and resources to her rather than wasting it on me. Hearing those words, so openly delivered as though they were harmless humor, was like being stabbed in the chest. I glanced around, desperate to see if anyone else in the room was as disturbed as I was. Instead, I saw relatives smiling and laughing, treating the cruelty as entertainment. My parents had always made me feel inferior, but this was the first time they had humiliated me in public. They had taken their favoritism out of the shadows and displayed it for all to see. In their eyes, I wasn't just lesser than Alina, I was a regret. Growing up, I had always sensed this imbalance. They often forgot my birthdays, sometimes leaving me home alone while they traveled for work. But when it came to Alina's birthday, they never missed the chance to plan elaborate celebrations and make her feel adored. I learned early on that my own special day wasn't important to them. Whenever I was outspoken or had my own ideas, they called me difficult and unpleasant, punishing me simply for being more vocal than the ideal daughter they wanted. Alina's quiet, polite nature was praised endlessly, while my liveliness was treated as a flaw. Over the years, I tried to mold myself into the version of a daughter they would respect. I studied harder, changed my behavior, and forced myself to follow their rules, hoping they would finally see me differently. But no matter what I did, I couldn't become Alina. Eventually, I gave up. I tried to accept that Alina would always be the golden child while I remained the afterthought. Watching them brag about her to everyone while brushing off my own efforts was agonizing. But at least until that night, their cruelty had mostly stayed within our family walls. So when they ridiculed me during Alina's graduation speech, the shock was overwhelming. I had never seen them so openly strip away my dignity in front of others. What hurt even more was that no one in our family objected. Nobody even looked at me with sympathy. Then, as if nothing had happened, my parents proudly revealed Alina's graduation gift, a brand new car. The room filled with applause and laughter as Alina embraced them, tears of joy in her eyes. They looked like the perfect, happy family while I sat there invisible. The irony is I never resented Alina herself. I genuinely believed she deserved the good things that came her way. But that night broke me. After the ceremony, I confronted my parents. For years, I had bottled up their favoritism, their dismissals, their cruel remarks. I kept quiet, convincing myself to stay strong. But I couldn't stay silent anymore. I needed them to know how deeply they had hurt me. I expected at least a shred of remorse. Instead, my father told me bluntly that he had nothing to be proud of when it came to me. My mother dismissed me as overly sensitive, saying I was making a big deal out of nothing. Alina even defended them, saying it was just a harmless joke. She told me that if I had worked and studied harder, I could earn their pride too. Hearing those words from her, my sister, who I thought would have my back, felt like betrayal. That was the moment everything shifted. I realized I had wasted years chasing their approval, trying to earn something they would never give me. That night, I let go of the idea of ever being enough for them. From then on, I poured everything into myself. I studied harder than ever, determined to build a future on my own terms. 2 years later, I achieved something they never thought I could. I was accepted into my dream university with a full scholarship. For the first time, I felt truly proud of myself. When I told my parents, they looked stunned. Alina even double-checked the acceptance letter, as if she couldn't believe I had done it on my own. But instead of congratulating me, my mother soured the moment by saying it was a good thing I had gotten a scholarship, since they hadn't saved any money for my education anyway. They had covered all of Alina's tuition without hesitation, but apparently hadn't planned anything for me. That was my breaking point. I packed my things, moved into my college apartment, and cut all ties with them. I didn't bother to explain. After years of being dismissed, I knew they would never understand. In the months that followed, they tried to contact me with emails and messages, painting me as the unreasonable one. They acted like I was destroying the family by cutting them off while ignoring their years of cruelty. I refused to reply. College gave me a fresh start. I focused on my studies, made friends who valued me, and built a life filled with people who actually cared. I worked part-time at a local diner, saving for the future and enjoying conversations with strangers who treated me with more kindness than my own parents ever had. For the first time, I wasn't weighed down by their rejection. I didn't miss them. I didn't even wonder how they were doing. Then, out of nowhere, an email arrived from them. After months of silence, they said they had urgent bad news. My stomach dropped. Despite everything, a part of me panicked that someone might have fallen seriously ill, or worse. I called them. That's when they told me Alina had developed a drug addiction. She had lost her job, burned through her savings, and was now at rock bottom. I was stunned. Alina, the one they had always praised as flawless, was struggling with heroin. My parents' voices shook with desperation, not out of concern for her health, but because they feared the damage to their reputation. Then came the insult that nearly made me hang up. They asked if I had been the one to introduce her to drugs. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I don't even use drugs, and I hadn't spoken to Alina in years. Yet somehow I was still their scapegoat. I told them firmly that Alina needed professional help, that rehab was her best chance to recover. But my father flat out refused, horrified at the idea of people finding out. He said it would ruin the family's name. Instead, they wanted me to come home, help them hide Alina's addiction, and pretend everything was fine while keeping her under constant watch. Listening to them, I felt the same disgust I had felt at her graduation. They hadn't changed at all. Even with Alina's life unraveling, their focus was on appearances, not her health. They begged me to take time off from school and work to help them. But I've built my own life, and I won't throw it away to protect their image. Alina deserves real treatment, not a cover-up, and I won't be dragged back into their toxic cycle again. I feel torn about everything. A part of me wants to step in and do whatever I can to support Alina and make sure she's okay. But another part of me thinks it's not my responsibility, that maybe my parents should handle the daughter they've always idolized on their own. The truth is, I'm not sure I'd even be much help. My parents seem far more focused on protecting their image than actually addressing the real problem. Even now, I question whether I should go home and take care of my sister, who's struggling with addiction, or stay away for my own peace of mind. Update 1: I didn't expect this story to get so much attention. It's taken me time to go through the hundreds of responses I've received, but I want to clarify a few things. First, I don't despise Alina. On the contrary, I care about her and want to help if I can. The problem is, I haven't spoken to my family in over 3 years, and during that time I've experienced a peace and balance that I never had while dealing with them. I'm worried that reconnecting with Alina might open the door for my parents to push their way back into my life. I'm not certain, but that possibility scares me. It's possible Alina has been dealing with heroin addiction for a long time, even before my parents found out. Looking back, she was always celebrated as the flawless daughter, and with that came immense pressure to keep up the act. When you're constantly placed on a pedestal, any slip-up feels catastrophic. If Alina grew up believing that her value came only from her achievements and how others saw her, then it makes sense that she might turn to substances as a way to escape that crushing pressure. Thinking about it this way makes me ache even more. She may have been silently suffering for years, and I had no clue. I wish she had felt safe enough to be honest with me before things got this bad. I would have been there for her. Knowing that she went through this alone leaves me with an overwhelming sense of helplessness. Our parents always demanded the best from both of us, because in their minds, only perfection was acceptable. But their version of perfection has hurt us in different ways. For now, I need time to process everything. If there are more developments, I'll share them. Update 2: After a lot of reflection and encouragement from many of the comments I read, I decided to reach out to Alina myself. At the end of the day, she's my sister. I didn't want my understanding of her situation to come only through my parents' distorted lens. I sent her a short message asking if she'd like to talk. She didn't reply right away, but hours later she agreed to a phone call. The moment I heard her voice, I could tell she wasn't the same person I remembered. Her tone was softer, fragile, weighed down. Slowly, she opened up. Elena admitted that she had been battling addiction for several years. It started not long after college, when she began working at her law firm. To prove herself, she worked relentlessly, trying to outdo her colleagues in hopes of promotions and recognition. After years of being the perfect daughter, the pressure to maintain that image became unbearable. She felt she couldn't slow down, ask for help, or show weakness. That's when a friend introduced her to recreational drugs as a way to cope. What started casually turned into dependency. Elena told me she had felt trapped for so long. She couldn't tell our parents what was happening because she already knew how they'd react, with denial and shame. Their obsession with appearances forced her to keep pretending everything was fine. But eventually, she couldn't hold it together anymore. She lost her job, drained her savings, and hit rock bottom. On the call, she admitted she was ashamed even to tell me about it, and she wondered if I was judging her as harshly as she judged herself. Hearing that broke me. I realized that the pedestal she had been placed on wasn't a privilege, it was a prison. She bore the crushing burden of being the golden child, while I endured the pain of being overlooked. Both of us had been damaged by the same favoritism, just in opposite ways. I told her there was nothing to judge. I only wished she had reached out to me sooner. More than anything, I regretted not being there to support her when she needed it most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.